today to help us manage and bag up these the sand. I also want to give thanks to our incredible city teams who have been here literally around the clock for a couple of days now. They are stationed on 15th East at Blaine Avenue, keeping an eye at all times on the culvert, and even had a boom tractor in there cleaning out a lot of the debris that washed down last night, which is part of what eroded underneath the sidewalk there on 15th East and has compromised the structure. Also, thanks to our amazing city council. They're all here right now. They've been working with the volunteers, feeding the volunteers and our crews. Thank you, city council. I want to say thanks also to so many organizations and businesses who have reached out, offering their elbow grease or supplies, bullhorns, because we really needed one last night. We didn't have one. Thank you to all of the companies and organizations. Right now, we're here to give you our last planned press conference of the day. That's a good sign. That means things are going pretty well. And barring any unforeseen challenges that may come up, this will be the last time we formally address you today. We want to let you know that the volunteer evacuation is no longer requisite. Bud Bowden, our Division Chief for Emergency Management, will give you some more details about that in just a moment. We do need more volunteers this weekend. The city's goal is to replenish our reserves of sandbags, which we have been deploying over the last 48 hours. We're setting up 2 locations, one on the east side, one on the west side. Sugar House Park will have a location, as well as Rosewood Park. The specific details on that will be posted on probably all of our social media as of this evening. But we'll begin at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. We will bag until the sand is gone. And if there's still sand on Sunday, we'll start again at 9 a.m. on Sunday. Please bring gloves, bring shovels, and bring a good attitude. It's actually been pretty fun bagging sand over the last 36 hours. Thank you for those who can show up. If you need sandbags in your residence, these are also locations where you'll be able to go to pick up sandbags. But if you're a volunteer who just wants to help fill them, that's wonderful. We need that. And if possible, we will be, please take public transit to get to these locations. Parking becomes very difficult when we have 1,000 volunteers show up. So we'll be posting on our social media channels transit options to get to Rosewood Park and Sugar House Park. The last thing I wanted to share with you is, actually that's it for me, folks. Sorry, it was a long night. I'm going to hand it over to Laura Briefer, our Public Utilities Director.
Thank you, Mayor, and good to see everybody this afternoon. I'm going to give a current status of our situation today. So you might have noticed our temperature has decreased quite a bit from this time yesterday. That's very good. A decrease in temperature has led to a decrease in runoff in the Immigration Creek watershed. We've also had our hydrologists up into the Immigration Creek watershed, and we've seen that, and this is good for the future as well for us, that the mid and low elevations of snowpack in the Immigration Creek watershed has also largely melted, which is great for the future for us. The flow of Immigration Creek has decreased by almost, I think, more than half now. And you can see that evidenced by what's flowing through on 1700 South here back into Immigration Creek. We have done a rediversion of Immigration Creek, so it was initially diverted 2 blocks down 1700 South, down 1500 East, and re-entering the creek on 1500 East and Blaine. We were able to redivert it because the flows decreased. Much shorter distance now to redivert from Immigration Creek here in Wasatch Hollow Park to Immigration Creek right here. So much less damage from that. We don't have any additional reports of property damage with regard to this particular incident, nor have we had other reports of flooding throughout the city. So runoff for our other streams has not really started yet. Citywide water status, we continue to monitor Immigration Creek. We continue to monitor all of the diversion and the restoration work that we're conducting. We continue to release water from Little Dell Reservoir, again to make space in the Parley's watershed for when that watershed starts its runoff in earnest. The weather forecast looks really favorable again this week, so we have a cooling trend now through Saturday. It gets about 70 degrees on Sunday, and then cooler again in the beginning of the week. That's really great for us to have that more gradual runoff decrease. We do have a lot of snowpack still in our watershed, so a gradual runoff is somewhat relative. We've got a lot of water that's going to come down. So we are going to be monitoring each of our stream systems throughout this runoff period. We have staff assigned to that. And I think that's all I have to say right now, but available for questions, and I'm turning it over to Clint Meekum from Salt Lake County.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Division Chief Clint Meekum. I am the Salt Lake County Emergency Management Director. Just to kind of springboard off what the Mayor and Director Briefer has said and give a little bit more of a global perspective, Salt Lake County Mayor Jenny Wilson made an emergency declaration last night that in support of our communities here within the Salt Lake Valley to make sure that we can maintain good cohesion and good support of our communities. To give a little bit more of a global overview, Immigration Canyon Township, for example, just upstream from where we are now, is also suffering the same kinds of issues that we're seeing here on 17th South. They've suffered a number of mudslides in Immigration Canyon. There's one home in Immigration Canyon with significant damage and another with minor damage. So again, in order to make sure that we stay joined at the hip, if you will, with our efforts throughout Salt Lake County, Mayor Wilson made that declaration. We're going to continue to lean into supporting our municipalities. Much as Director Briefer said, we're looking at the other creeks within the Salt Lake Valley right now. So Parley's Creek, Mill Creek, Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons. There's still a lot of water to come down, and this is probably just the beginning of our runoff season and the efforts that we may need to affect as we move forward in keeping the water in the channels and keeping our residents safe. So thank you. Chief Bowden.
Thank you, Chief Meekum. I am Division Chief Richard Bowden with the Salt Lake City Fire Department. I'm also the city's emergency manager. I just want to give you a couple of updates really on the road closures and the evacuation status. Road closures will remain in effect on 15th East from Glen Arbor to Blaine, and then on 17th South from 1700 East to 1500 East. As you can see behind us, there are some hard road closures that really are not passable, so any local traffic will be able to come in, but keep in mind that we do have some hard closures. That does bring the point up of even pedestrian traffic. In the area of Blaine Avenue, there is some areas there that are hazardous due to the impacts on the roadway. So if you don't belong in the area, you're not up volunteering, we would ask that you stay out of the area as much as possible just for your safety. As for the evacuations, the voluntary evacuation has been lifted just because the conditions have improved. With that thought in mind, I would encourage the residents as they come back into the area, please keep an eye on it, stay aware of the situation, monitor the social media. If something does occur, if conditions change and we need to reinstitute that, we will. But with everything, please stay prepared, whether you live in this area or any other area, so that if you can leave, if there's something comes up, whether it's this or any other instance. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Salt Lake City. I'm Councilmember Dan Dugan, and I'm impressed and grateful for all the volunteer effort that we've had over the last night and even today. This morning at the press brief, we asked for 50 volunteers at 1:30, and I got here right at 1:30, and there was probably already 50 volunteers doing work. And then we got another 50, and we've probably done a couple truckloads of sandbagging today. So that effort across the board is impressive, and it just really makes you feel good about the city and grateful for all the people that we have here. I also shout out to the city and the county for all their great work, collaborating, communicating, and making sure we're getting everything out posted there on social media and keeping it informed. A couple safety things. Safety is the #1 priority. We got to stay safe. We got to take care of each other, take care of ourselves, stay out of the water. last night, it's cold. It's cold, it's deep, and it's running fast. So don't go in the water. Don't go near there. You don't need to touch it, right? Just watch it on social media, all right? Please do. Second thing, the mayor talked about Saturday's effort on sandbagging. 9 o'clock, it's going to be at the Community Gardens and Sugar House, which is the northeast corner, and then the location on the west side is still TBD. 9 o'clock until we finish bagging everything up. Be safe, be good to each other, have a great day. Thanks. Oh, one last thing. The mayor told me to say, any questions?
Do you need volunteers now, tonight?
I don't think we need volunteers tonight. I think we're good right now tonight because I think the flow's going. I should be speaking. The flow's going. Is at a receding method level right now, so we don't need volunteers.
And we're bringing in the sand tomorrow.
Until Saturday, Sunday, right?
Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning, then we'll give you more updates on the location on the west side, and then on Sunday the same thing.
Rosewood Park.
Rosewood Park.
If people, if there is an emergency, if people want to start and you need more volunteers, where can people go to look to find out immediately?
I forgot. I had that information. Sorry. Sorry. Thank you. Great question. I forgot. Remember, I knew there was something else. This was it. We have a form. We're going to put a tiny URL and we'll add it to our social media feeds. This is the Salt Lake City volunteer form. Like next Saturday is Earth Day. We've been gearing up for a lot of work around that. If you get on our volunteer list, then if there's an emergency, we can blast that out to you, or we can let you know with these pre-scheduled volunteer opportunities. So please, if you're interested in volunteering, make it easy for us to let you know when we need you and where we need you by clicking on that tiny URL and sign up.
Mayor, this morning you had mentioned that no homeowners had taken advantage of the evacuation, voluntary evacuation. Is that still the case?
We knew that no one had taken advantage of the evacuation site at the church here. I understand that one person stayed at a parent's house out of an abundance of caution, but that's still the case.
Do we have all the sand we need?
We're getting more. Part of the reason that it's under control right now, and that's why we don't need more volunteers at the moment, but we're also picking up many truckloads of sand tomorrow, and we'll be delivering those to Rosewood Park and Sugar House Park. So more sand coming. We'll be ready for you Saturday morning.
Will the creek start flowing through the pipe again that goes under this road, or will it stay above?
It is flowing through actually even quite a bit into this with this flow. They've been doing some work to clear out this storm drain that we diverted it to, but it is flowing through. Yeah, not as well as we need it to.
Is that because it's blocked, or it just doesn't have the capacity?
It's blocked.
When did that blockage occur?
Laura?
So this is a great opportunity for me to talk about sort of the uniqueness of the infrastructure here. So there is a flood control facility just on this side of the detention basin in Wasatch Hollow Park. That construction or flood control facility is quite tall when it comes out of the bank of the river, and it has 3 different inlets to it, and we think that the bottom inlet was blocked after the first flush of runoff happened around 2 or 3 in the morning on Wednesday. We couldn't get to that because once the water built up behind that flood control facility, it was about 25 feet deep, and there's just no equipment, no way to get to it, which is why the water is flowing over the road, because we had to channel the water to get to the creek in a controlled manner because it would find its own way anyway. Once the water gets low enough for our crews and our county flood control crews to investigate that block and remove it, then we anticipate being able to do the full flow of Immigration Creek into the pipe system and not over the road. Sorry, I'm a little cold. We assume it was because, it took, I think county crews were here earlier in the evening from what I understand, and things were just flowing fine. So sometime between when they were here in the middle of the night and later in the middle of the night, things started backing up on that part of the system.
Any estimation on when the water will get low enough to try to clear that lowest inlet?
Right now we don't. We're just constantly monitoring runoff flows in the cubic feet per second at the mouth of the canyon and at Westminster, and it has been gradually going downward. It has not been increasing. So it's really hard to tell right now. I think with this cooler weather, we'll see additional decreasing of those flows.
You had mentioned low elevation and mid elevation snow being mostly melted.
Yes.
There's warmer temperatures expected next week. What does that mean when those warmer temperatures come back?
That means that we may see some of the upper elevation snow melted around 6,500 feet and above. We're not sure all of that's ready to go in this next warm up. We do have some hydrologists working with us to kind of try to estimate that. It's not an exact science. But we are trying to understand that as best we can. Thank you.
As for the flood flow, was it a planned route that you guys had to where it went, or is that just like, oh, it's going this way, so you just threw sandbags up as a base?
It did take some planning and strategy. You know, before this blockage occurred, we didn't anticipate that Emigration Creek would come out of its banks. And I think one of the values of all of the pre-planning and pre-coordination that we had between Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, and our emergency management teams is that we were able to get together and have a good huddle, a constructive huddle, and make a really good plan to divert that flow with the least amount of impact to the community.
If the creek starts flowing, when it does start flowing through the pipe again, will the barriers and the sandbags stay in place for the remainder of the runoff season?
We will determine that as soon as we have better forecasts. It's probably not a bad idea for some of those to stay in place, but we don't want to keep it there indefinitely either. You know, sandbags once they're inundated with floodwaters, you know, may have been impacted by whatever's in the stream. So we want to make sure that we clean that up as soon as we can too.
How does somebody, like if I'm a homeowner, how do I know if I need to go get sandbags?
With respect, if you're a homeowner and you're concerned about any kind of runoff impacts to your home,
how do I know whether to be concerned about my house?
Okay.
There's a big range.
Yeah, so there are a few different ways. First of all, we have a pretty active social media presence. So if you're active on social media, we will be alerting our community if there are risks to runoff. Also, Salt Lake County and Salt Lake City have collaborated on a website that's a great landing place to get updated information, and that is slco.to/floodprep. That is a great website to get the most recent hydrologic information, the recent snowpack information, runoff projections. So there's a lot of great information there.
I know I've seen the maps indicating risk, and the FEMA one isn't very legible to many people, but the county one is. I noticed as I was driving around last night that, you know, I saw residents putting on sandbags and having active flooding in a lot of neighborhoods just to the west of here too that aren't indicated as being at any flood risk on that map. Is that not a reliable tool to like ascertain whether you're at risk?
The FEMA floodplain maps are a reliable tool in terms of relative risk, but if you're not in a FEMA floodplain, but you are in close enough proximity to a stream, I think it's important to be prepared. So what we saw here, because part of Emigration Creek was piped through the storm drain system, you know, when those storm drains become surcharged or they become very full of water, that water can come out of the storm drain. That happened in this situation. It never reached the level of a house. It never even jumped the curb. But you know, that's the kind of thing that can happen because sometimes through the city, the streams can be piped through the storm drain system as well. And our crews know where those points are, and there's a lot of active monitoring on those as well.
All right, guys. Can we break off for some one-on-ones if there are additional questions? We're going to get everybody back in out of the cold if we can for a moment. Thanks, everybody.
Yo creo que, no sé cómo lo tengo planeado, pero yo creo que incluso sería una buena idea que lo que se hace ahorita o lo que hacen ustedes y yo...
Yeah, like so I had to hurry up and scramble to get that sucker in because I had to swap batteries and whatnot. Kind of like what you did.
Yeah, I put the lav mic.
And I forgot I had to swap my frequency too.
Oh, you was with some frequency.